But now let's bring on our producer, Addie Bates. We do a little Would You Rather baseball style. So, Addie, what's the first one you got for us?
All righty. Would you rather bet the Phillies to win the NL East at plus 190 or the Red Sox to win the AL East at plus 360?
Man, this is a good question. I think I'd rather go with the Phillies at plus 190. So I certainly am worried about the Phillies, and the Braves they're going to be back healthy. For me, though, I only see the NL East as a 2-team race, whereas I see the AL East as a 3-team race. I'm not high on the Mets this year, Denton. I'm not a believer. I understand they got Soto. I think that was just one of those magical seasons where it was the OMG Mets, it was Grimace, and everything was going right for them. They were a horrible baseball team for the first 2 months. Horrible. And then, look, they struck lightning a lot like the Detroit Tigers did, right? I mean, the Tigers were like, this happens in sports, it happens in baseball, where teams just get hot. And then they go on a great season, they have a magical ride, and that's what happened with the Mets. But I still have concerns with their starting pitching a little bit. And honestly, I still have concerns with their lineup because Lindor was not a very good New York Met outside of like the last 3 months that he put together. So for me, I really only view the NL East between the Braves and the Phillies. And the Phillies, I think a lot of people viewed them as probably the best team in baseball for much of the year last year until they kind of stumbled down the stretch. So they pretty much have the same team returning. 3 good starting pitchers. Their lineup's very solid as well. The Red Sox certainly could win the East, and you're getting a much better price, but I think I'd rather go with the Phillies at plus 190. What about you?
I'm going to go with the Red Sox in this one. I like the number a lot better. I think it's more of a value to the gambler, but on top of that, I feel like the Yankees lineup, obviously they lose Juan Soto offensively, but we don't really know what the status is right now of Garrett Cole and whether or not he's going to be able to play this year. I feel like there's a little bit more room for the Red Sox and at a much better value to the gambler to make this work. I'm on a little bit of a different side than you are with the Mets. I think the Mets might actually not be awful. I think they'll start the season a lot better than they did last year. So I'm going to take the Red Sox at plus 360. I know I'm falling a little bit into the hype because of some of the moves they've made this offseason, but I like the number, so I'm going with the Sox.
Addie, what say you? Phillies or Red Sox? Who do you like?
So up until yesterday, I would have said Phillies. But because of the Yankees, if Garrett Cole, let's say he's out for the season, you're missing Luis Gil, Giancarlo Stanton. Stroman says he wants to be a starter, doesn't want to be in the bullpen. It's like, okay, this is your time to now prove it. I don't know if the Yankees can beat a playoff contending team in a 3-game series, so I would put my money on the Red Sox.
I think that's fair. Yeah, I understand. I mean, the plus 360 is a good price, too. I like the Phillies, I think, more than most people this season. I think they're going to bounce back. But yeah, both teams should definitely make the playoffs this upcoming season. Addie, what's the next one we got up?
Bringing in both of y'all's teams, would you rather bet Gunnar Henderson to win AL MVP at plus 600 or Dylan Cruz to win NL Rookie of the Year at plus 350?
Yeah, I think I'd rather go with Dylan Cruz at plus 350. I look at the NL Rookie of the Year market, and I mean, all these teams are pretty much going to have rookies that contribute. Some teams might have multiple rookies that contribute, but really it's only like 4 or 5 guys that can win it. I mean, AL MVP, it could be a number of people this year. Judge could go out and hit 50, 55 bombs again. He'd be right there. Bobby Witt was a 9-WAR player last year. He should be awesome again. A lot of people think Julio Rodriguez is going to have a monster year. Yordan Alvarez should be really good. As much as I love Gunnar, and I think he's one of the better players in baseball, I just think AL MVP is so much more competitive than NL Rookie of the Year is. And usually NL Rookie of the Year, I mean, you can say MVP too, usually is a hitter, but usually Rookie of the Year is always a hitter. Last year, we obviously had 2 pitchers win it, which I think is making this market a little more skewed than it should be, and that's why you're seeing Sasaki as the favorite. But usually, Rookie of the Year goes to a hitter. So that's why I like Cruz. He's going to be an everyday player for the Nationals. I think he's going to have a good season. So, Dan, I'll go with your guy, plus 350.
Yeah, I'm going with my guy, too. I'm taking Dylan Cruz. I love what I've seen from him at the tail end of last year and then in spring training as well. And then on top of that, PJ, I'm a narrative gambler when it comes to these awards. And his fellow classmate, who is also drafted number 2 overall, 2A team in D.C., won NFL Rookie of the Year offensively. So why not Dylan Cruz winning NL Rookie of the Year? So I'm going to go with Dylan Cruz. I do think he's going to have a really impressive season for a young guy.
Addie?
I'm also on Dylan Cruz. I think, like you were saying, I think Roki Sasaki, by the way, it's hilarious to me that he's a rookie because he's been playing for so long in Japan. I'm like,
Agreed.
they're calling this guy a prospect. I'm like, yeah, this is a pretty.
How old is he? Do you know?
He's in his 20s for sure,
Yeah, let me look
but
at
definitely not prospect. But I think Dylan Cruz, like you said, I think it's going to be easier for him. So I'd also put money on Dylan Cruz.
Yeah, he is 23 years old, but you're right. It's almost like he's been playing professional baseball for so long that it is weird to view him as a rookie. Dylan Cruz, let's see, his age. He's also 23.
He's also
so those
23.
guys, 23 years old. I'm with you guys, though. I like Dylan Cruz as well. Addie, what we got next?
Alrighty, we're going to bring in both the Yankees and the Phillies on this one. So would you rather bet the Yankees to win the American League at plus 300 or the Phillies to win the National League at plus 650?
I'd be all over the Phillies on this one.
I'm
you
with
know, I
you.
know I took the Red Sox over the Phillies in terms of the divisional race, but the Phillies have this ability, it feels like, and maybe they only did that 1 year when Harper went crazy, but they have Bryce Harper on the team, and Bryce Harper is one of those guys where he can flip a switch in the postseason. So if you're making a big run, and we don't know what the injuries could look like with like the Dodgers and even the Phillies, the Braves, whoever, but I'll take the Phillies at plus 650 to win the National League.
So the reason it's a great question is because I think in the postseason, these are the two toughest venues to play at in baseball. I think Red October for Philadelphia. I mean, the last couple years, man, just watching some of those moments that they've gotten, it's an electric place to play and really tough for the visitors. And Yankee Stadium, I mean, when the Yankees are good and the Bronx Zoo is jumping around and going nuts, that's a difficult place to play too. But look, it took the Yankees 15 years to get back to the World Series, and now they're 3-1 to get back in back-to-back years. I just don't see it. Addie, you mentioned all the injuries that they have. Garrett Cole, I mean, that's a big deal. If he is out for a significant amount of time, especially in the playoffs, you can't replace that. So I think the Yankees got fortunate last year in the playoffs that they didn't have to play Houston or Baltimore. Now they're likely going to have to deal with those teams again probably, and add the Texas Rangers, who I think is going to win the American League. And I like the Phillies to actually win the National League. So for me, this is an easy answer. I would go with Philadelphia plus 650. How about you?
I would also go with the Phillies, and it's kind of like what we said. Like the Yankees, I don't even think they could beat the Guardians. I don't think they could beat the Royals when it comes to a 3-game series. I think the Phillies could beat the Braves. I think the Mets, it would be interesting. I think they would obviously beat the Mets. And I do think the Dodgers and Phillies, I do think that would be a close series, but I think the Phillies could beat the Dodgers. So I'd put my money on the Phillies at plus 650.
Very good. All right. What is the last one we got?
The last one. Now, this one's interesting because if you look, the Twins are projected right now to win the AL Central, which is crazy to me. So would you rather bet the Royals to win the AL Central at plus 300 or the Twins to win the AL Central at plus 220?
You know, I think a lot of people would take the Royals just because they have one of the best position players in baseball. They have one of the best pitchers in the American League in Cole Reagans. They were a great story last year, but they had so much go right for them. Like Seth Lugo was great. Michael Wacha was great. I still don't think they did enough to improve their lineup around Bobby Witt and Salvi. So I'm kind of down on the Royals. I think they were almost a year ahead of schedule, and this year they kind of fall under expectation. Where Minnesota, I mean, they were the heavy favorite last year, right? They were minus money to win this division. Now you're getting them at plus 220, and it's virtually the same team. And it's always comes down to health with them. Like Royce Lewis is one of the best players in baseball. The poor guy can just stay healthy, but he pulls a hamstring every time he rounds first base. Byron Buxton has finally turned into the player that a lot of us thought he would be. Carlos Correa is still good. And then their pitching is obviously very solid. You know, you got Lopez and Joe Ryan, Bailey Ober. Duran's one of the better closers in the American League. So you're going to get so many differing opinions on this division. Somebody's going to like the Guardians, the Tigers, the Royals, but at the end of the day, I do think it is Minnesota that ends up winning the division.
I think I'm going to go with the Royals on this one. I hear what you're saying about potentially being a year ahead of schedule. We saw that a couple years ago with Seattle, and they way underperformed, and everyone started looking at them sideways. But I do think some of the guys that they're hoping are going to take another step forward do. Is it a perfect lineup? No, but I'm going to take the Royals at 3-1.
Addie, what about you?
I am also taking the Royals. I think when it comes to the AL Central, I think this is going to be one of the most exciting divisions to watch this year. I think it'll be a little underrated. Obviously, they don't get as much media attention as like the NL East, but I would also take the Royals just because I feel like the Twins, you never know what's going to happen with them. I forgot, as an Astros fan with Carlos Correa, I almost forgot he was on the Twins. I'm like, oh yeah, does he still play baseball?
Yeah, he certainly does. We're going to talk some more baseball with Corbin Young coming up in about 20 minutes. But coming up next, we got to break down all the NFL news we've had over the last couple days, including the Myles Garrett news that broke right before the show. We'll dive into all that fourth and final hour inside the Betting Lines next.